Justice is what love looks like in public. So says professor and public intellectual Cornel West. In other words, love is the animating force of true justice. In the public square, justice without love is retribution. Love without justice is platitudinous. My first year in Baltimore, back in 2010, there was an incident that highlighted some of the deep divisions between the Haredi, Jewish, and Black communities of Northwest Baltimore. A 15-year-old African-American boy was assaulted by a member of the Shomrim, a private Jewish neighborhood patrol group. You may remember the incident. According to the judge, who convicted 24-year-old Eliyahu Werdesheim, the defendant followed Corey Osby into the 3300 block of Falstaff. He relied on his military training to take Osby down and injured Osby in the process by hitting him in the head with a radio. At the time, I was newly living here in Reservoir Hill and largely ignorant to the dynamics of Park Heights Black-Jewish relations. Among other things, I remember being struck by the immediate response of then Baltimore Jewish Council leadership. Very quickly, a press conference was called to highlight Jewish and African-American leaders standing side by side, sharing civil rights nostalgia, and declaring proudly that Black folks and Jewish folks were committed to peaceful coexistence. Yes, there were tougher conversations behind closed doors, and no doubt there were real relationships cultivated over time on display at that press conference. But the public-facing work was to smooth over the rough edges. On Rosh Hashanah, I often take some time to consider our upcoming year at Beth Am. Where do we want to focus our energy in 5783? What new initiatives will we engage in? How might we integrate our learning, our volunteerism, our prayer life, our social interactions? How does all of this fit within our congregational mission? And when I think about our community, I consider my initial reaction to that Shomrim incident back in 2010, because in the world of dialogue across difference, there are those who are relational, and there are those who are public relational. To be public relational is to be more concerned with perception. To be relational is to be most concerned with the truth. Public relational is about what we say. Relational is about how we feel. People will forget what you said, writes the poet Maya Angelou. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. To be public relational doesn't mean dishonesty, but it foregrounds the values of stability, stasis, inertia. Relational work is about feeling those rough edges, running our fingers over the unevenness, sitting with the discomfort. I'm proud that Beth Am is a shul dedicated to relationships. We are a house of the people, nearly 50 years strong, reflecting 100 years of institutional presence in this neighborhood. But on this Rosh Hashanah, there's always room for growth. This year, we might ask ourselves, who are those people for whom this house stands? With whom will we learn, grow, sing, dance, serve? You just heard the Open Doors Annual Fund appeal to whom are our doors open. I ask these questions not because I'm concerned about the answer necessarily, but because Hachnasat Orchim, hospitality, like so many things, requires vigilance, and partnerships require stewardship. Justice requires love, and love, my friends, grows out of mutual understanding. These questions and more are what animate Beth Am, because as much as we are a congregation defined by community and learning, we are a synagogue driven by a call to justice. And this is why when I stood on this bima a decade ago and asked you to consider what it means to be not just in and for, but also of this neighborhood, you took up the challenge and formed IFO, our community relations nonprofit. This is also why our Board of Trustees this month saw fit to reimagine our social action and social justice work under a single umbrella, reflecting the many synergies between three discrete areas of work: direct service, advocacy, and relational justice. This new initiative is to be called Tzedek Beth Am. That is Beth Am seeking justice. The vast majority of you have said that our commitment to social justice is among the factors that inspire your membership, but our passion for tzedek varies from person to person, right? Professors Joel Westheimer and Joseph Kahn write about three types of citizens: the personally responsible citizen, the participatory citizen, and the justice-oriented citizen. The personally responsible gives blood, composts, volunteers at a local clinic. The participatory person organizes food drives or neighborhood cleanups. The justice-oriented citizen investigates systemic injustice and works to address root causes. This person might donate to a food drive, but their passion is for ending food insecurity. These three archetypes intersect with, and I think complement well, Tzedek Beth Am's three areas of work: service, advocacy, and relational justice. No matter what your personal passions, now there is one entity where you can get involved, one fund to which you can contribute, one place to inform, inspire, and engage with the work of Tzedek. Tzedek tirdof. Justice you shall pursue, is the Torah's demand to the Jewish people. When we fight for abortion justice, or environmental justice, or racial justice, we pursue tzedek. When we deliver fresh produce to longtime neighbors, or new Afghan refugee families, well over 100,000 pounds worth since the pandemic began, we are inhabiting the ancient practice of tzedakah. Tzedakah from tzedek is distributive justice, not charity. The notion that it is fundamentally unjust for anyone to be without food or clothing, housing, basic necessities. When we open our doors and show up for concerts, parties at the polls, gentrification seders, community meetings, when we daven for 9 months at Mount Lebanon Baptist Church across the street from where the Freddie Gray uprising began, or when we sit now in our beautifully appointed social hall downstairs while listening to our neighbors tell stories about their apartment building's slum-like conditions, we are doing relational justice work. And when in the future we ascend our new grand staircase with its reclaimed historic Baltimore balusters for an evening of holy encounter with our neighbors here in the sanctuary, in that moment, our grasp of that braided handrail is our willingness to run our fingers over the rough edges of Reservoir Hill, the seams of Baltimore City. All of this, and much more, brought us to this exciting moment of Tzedek Beth Am. And as we complete, finally, our capital projects, our new office suite, marking Beth Am staff's return to our neighborhood, our new courtyard, our new sukkah in our new courtyard, as I stand on this magnificent new lectern dedicated to those who helped shape what happens in this room from the very beginning, this year feels like the right year to proclaim a year of tzedek. Last year, we focused on coming home. We hung mezuzot throughout our building. In each of our spaces. We'll hang the final one just after Ne'ilah this year on Yom Kippur. Having come home now, we might ask, what shall we do? Our year of Tzedek begins today. And it's especially powerful to begin this work on Rosh Hashanah because Rosh Hashanah at its core is about justice. Today, says our tradition, is Yom Hadin, Judgment Day, the day of justice. Now, sometimes people get this confused with Yom Kippur. But as Moshe Benevitz of Machon Shechter in Jerusalem, and my favorite Talmud professor, don't tell my other Talmud professors, please, as he teaches, nothing can be further from the truth. Yes, the haunting Unetana Tokef prayer declares, Berosh Hashanah Yikatevun, Uvayom Som Kippur Yichatemun. On Rosh Hashanah it is written, and on Yom Kippur it's sealed. But this, says Benefits, is nonsensical, really. A true judicial system, he writes, needs no seal for its verdicts. Rulings and judgments are rendered by the justices, and when they're written up, they're not sealed. The only reason the divine judgment on Rosh Hashanah is not sealed until Yom Kippur is because the entire purpose of the days following Rosh Hashanah, culminating in Yom Kippur, is to overturn the divine judgment written today on Rosh Hashanah. On Rosh Hashanah, God is a God of justice. On Yom Kippur, though, God is all about mercy. That's why the prayer includes an out clause. But tshuva, tefillah, and tzedakah avert the severity of the decree. Why? Because as the prayer goes on, you shall not desire the death of the condemned, but rather that we change our ways and live. As Benefits explains, repentance in this context is not the life-changing repentance of Elul, when we attempt to remake ourselves in the wake of impending judgment on Rosh Hashanah. Repentance here is mere turning toward God. We realize we're in trouble and we throw ourselves at the mercy of the court. So today is Yom Hadin. But just because we, the Jewish people, stand in judgment doesn't mean that we are judged only for our behavior toward God or even toward our fellow Jews. God isn't the God of the Jewish people. We may have a covenant, and that's something, but the themes of the world are ultimately inconsequential to the one who shapes the entire universe. And this isn't just like Rav Daniel Kumbaya stuff, folks. According to the Midrash, Rosh Hashanah grows not from the particularity of our Jewish people's covenant, but from humanity's very origin story. God said to Adam, "This will be a sign to your children as you stood in judgment before me this day and were pardoned. So will your children in the future stand before me and will emerge from my presence pardoned." When will that be? According to the Midrash, in the 7th month, on the first day of the month. According to the sages, the world came into being at this time of year. Rearrange the letters of Breshit in the beginning, Torah's first word, and you get Aleph Bit Tishrei, the first of Tishrei, today. The rabbis debated whether it was the universe itself or humanity specifically created on this day, but what the Midrash makes clear is that our judgment today as Jews stems not from Abraham, but from Adam. God is the God of humanity. Adam and Chava sinned and were forgiven. We sin. Should we do the work of tshuva, we also are forgiven. And so what does this mean for Tzedek Betham in this Shnat Tzedek as we enter this year of justice? The piyut, the liturgical poem that we'll soon hear in Musaf, just after the shofar blast, may provide some guidance. Hayom Harat Olam is often translated, today is the birthday of the world, but it's better rendered, today is pregnant with eternity. Our 20th century rabbi, or one 20th century rabbi, put it this way: on Rosh Hashanah, we can joyously proclaim Hayom Harat Olam, that today we shall express those capacities into reality. For today, we shall return ourselves by giving birth to a new and fascinating world. That rabbi was Norman Lamb, who gave a Rosh Hashanah sermon in 1963, 3 weeks after the famous March on Washington. He was deeply moved by the event, and more so by the ferocity and courage of Black leaders 100 years after emancipation. He said in 1963, "This year has been a historic one for the Negroes of our country. They have heard and responded to their shofar call. They have taken the decisive step from unrealized potential to a new and exhilarating reality. They have announced to America, Hayom Harat Olam. Today, we create a new society of dignity and honor. And even if we must lose lives of our innocent children, we shall break out of our stupor and enable our people to make contributions to this land as free men and the equal of all others." That was 1963. Would that his words have been more prescient? How much more work there is yet to do. Which is why our year of Tzedek is so important. This year, my friends, is the year to take our passion for justice to the next level. COVID is loosening its bonds. Our campus has been activated. We must resist the urge to rest on our laurels or fall into an overly public relational posture. So today, I want to highlight 2 immersive experiences bracketing our year, each with a focus on justice. The second, chronologically, will be our triumphant return in our Beth Am Shabbaton. Join us May 19th through the 21st at the Pearlstone Retreat Center for a weekend of learning, community building, and fun. It will be a multi-generational, intergenerational event. Everyone is welcome, at least until all the slots fill up. The first experience, though, just 1 month from now, will be our Scholar in Residence weekend with Lila Corwin Berman. Professor Berman teaches at Temple University and will cover a range of topics related to Tzedek. She'll speak about values-driven urban renewal, just and unjust approaches to philanthropy, and she'll speak about the rising tide of anti-Semitism. Chevra, this first of Tishrei is pregnant with eternity, with possibility, and with promise. The turn of a year is a chance to birth ourselves anew. It demands introspection of the self, that we investigate our surroundings and insist on a better tomorrow. The Talmud teaches anyone who can challenge the sins of their household and does not is accountable for the people of their household. One who can protest the sins of their city and does not is responsible for the people of their city. Bechol ha'olam kulo, nitpas al kol ha'olam kulo, and anyone who can demand better of the world and does not is accountable for the whole world. Justice is what love looks like in public. May this Yom Hadin, this day of justice, inspire a true Shnat Tzedek, a year of justice. May we seek justice with all our love for God's creation, and may this year spur future years, at least 100 more years in this building pursuing Tzedek. May the calluses on our fingers from running them over the rough edges of the world remind us never to let callousness into our hearts. And may the doors of this Beth Am campus be open to all who seek a better community, a better city, and yes, a better world. Shana Tova Umituka. May it be a sweet one, a more just one, and a better one for all.